Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hedin, owner of Illustrious Hardwoods in Mesa, Arizona. Joining me this week are returning guests Shannon Vogel and Crystal Sims, never together, but both on the show previously. Amazing women, each in different parts of the industry, and they have found a way to combine themselves into just a phenomenal force of power in that they've developed a mentor-mentee relationship, and which way that goes these days, I don't know. It started off with Crystal wanting a mentor, and she would be the mentee, but I have a feeling that they've both learned very much from each other, and it goes both ways more than they ever thought possible. It was birthed in January of 2023 2022. Can't even get my dates right. At Surfaces, while Crystal was there doing the Installer of the Year competition, and I don't know that it was a chance meeting, but she had the chance to run into Shannon, and they instantly hit it off, and we'll hear more about that a little later. But you need a mentor. I don't care who you are. You need a mentor, and you need to go be a mentor to someone else. You learn so much more by teaching, but you also don't know everything. I don't care what stage of business you're in. There's someone that can teach you something. I don't care where you're at in your personal life. There's something you need to be learning, and there's someone that you could look up to and gain something from, and then you can go ahead and pass that on to someone younger than you. I myself have my quote unquote little brother in Chicago that I've known since I was probably like 16 and he was 13. And to this day, he'll still call me for advice here and there. It used to be a lot more often, but I did at one point tell him that he was no longer a Padawan, and he had become a Jedi, and he needed to go find his own Padawan to start passing information along to that was lost in life and confused and had no idea how to just, be a late teenager and early 20s kid trying to make it in the world today. Why are we here? Floor Academy is here every week to help you figure out how to run a more effective business so that you can get your time back, because none of us went into business to give it all to our business. We were like, we're going to get time to go on vacation and spend with our family, and we're going to buy a boat, and we're going to be able to use it. Well, maybe don't buy the boat, but everything else sounds really good. So we're going to talk about all these little things every week. We're going to interview people that are doing it and how you can take those gold nuggets as we interview them, implement them into your business. I think that's it. That's why we're here. That's enough from me. So we'll let Shannon go first. And, you've been on, but who are you? What do you do? And then we'll let Crystal introduce herself, and we'll dig into this relationship that you two have been nurturing.
So thanks for having us. I'm Shannon Vogel, and I'm the owner of Reach Social, which is a social media company that focuses on the flooring and construction industry, helping small businesses, be seen and heard on social.
Beautiful.
Wow, I expected that to be way longer. I am Crystal Sims, and I work at Preferred Flooring in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I am on the installation side of things. So I've been doing that for 11 years, and I'm excited to be here to talk to you about this relationship that I very enjoyed.
What Crystal won't tell you is that she's better than both Daniel and Jose, her brothers.
That's the good thing about having a mentor, right? They teach you well.
She won't say it. I'll say it for you, though.
I was going to say, Kyle, you sling it. It's your party.
I don't like those guys. They're mean. Those Preferred Flooring guys are the worst, I promise. We'll see if they listen and I start getting comments back. This is my test for them. They're supposed to be supporters of the show. Daniel, Jose. Yeah, you guys. No. All right, Shannon. What happened? Who needs to start? Like, where did this start? It wasn't a chance meeting. I mean, you were both at, what did we do? We did the first timers like ambassador thing. And I think you met there, or that's where she asked you. I don't know. Who needs to start? Who starts this story? Like, what the hell happened?
So I'll say my side, and then Crystal, you can probably clear it up a little. Because it wasn't chance, like it was meant to be, but it just the way it happened was such a beautiful orchestration of chaos. I started talking to Jose first and was like, this is probably the smartest human I've ever talked to. And I'm not sure what he's saying. Like I couldn't process some of the things he was saying, but I was so thirsty for the things that he was saying. And I was like, man, this guy's really cool. And then I see the backpacks because they had these cool backpacks that lit up and, had video on them, did cool things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then another one with the backpack comes up and I start talking to this guy named Daniel. And I was like, God, there's another one that's cool. Who are these people? And I don't really remember exactly how it went, but he just started like getting super serious and then we get super deep. And if you've ever met, we get super deep, super quick.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he asked me if I would go meet his sister and because she was looking for a mentor. And then somebody grabbed me and interrupted me. I ended up talking to somebody else. And then I didn't even know who Crystal was. And I just get in this conversation with this great human. And I think it started by she was nervous about having to speak on stage the next day. And I said, well, I just happen to have like these 10 bullet points of how to not be afraid of public speaking. And we just started talking. And then it was like we were in this vortex and nobody else was there. And we were just locked in. And then she asked me to be her mentor. And I was like, no shit, wait, I think all of this is coming together. So that's how I remember it. Not sure that that's accurate, but that's
okay. What do you got, Crystal?
I mean that's a very simplified version. So it was actually the end of the first day of the competition, and from my perspective, it was a rough day for me, right? I ended up making a mistake that day, and so going to this first time attendees thing was like the last thing I wanted to do because I just felt like my energy was extremely drained. But I was an ambassador, so of course I'm gonna go, and that's what I'm there for, to network. So I sucked it up, and I Jim Aaron is actually the one that introduced us to each other.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, and like Shannon said, it was just like we started talking, and I told her kind of how my day went and how I don't know if I was speaking the next day, but I know that the next day was the final day of competition. And because I had such a rough day, she kind of gave me some pointers, like she said. And one thing that really stuck with me and that I actually did do was to write my fears down on a piece of paper. And before I walk into wherever I was going, to throw it in the trash and leave them there. Like I have to go in without any prior knowledge to what happened, basically. And so that's what I did, and I ended up having a much better day. And back to the mentor thing. So after our conversation, I went back to, I think it was Tanya, Erica, and Tracy, and I was like, man, I think that I want to ask her to be my mentor. And ironically, I had told Daniel, I think it might have been the day before or even the day of, because it was the day before because they had the Women in Leadership Conference the day before. And after sitting through that, I was like, man, I think I need a female mentor, because up to this point, Daniel had been my mentor. A lot of the things I had learned installation-wise was coming from Daniel and Jose, but I spent, I'd probably say 75% of the time with Daniel. And so the way it all conspired that night, and after telling the ladies that, is actually while I was telling them, Shannon was having that conversation with Daniel. And so we walked out and Shannon actually stopped me. And she gave me a bracelet that someone had gifted to her and said that she'd know the right moment to give it to someone. And after she gifted me with the bracelet is when I asked her to be my mentor, because it just felt very fitting.
It's so beautiful. It really is. Like, it's just, it's weird. And I knew you both, and like, it makes perfect sense that it happened, but it's really, it's amazing, like how it happened.
Just so vulnerable in that first moment. I was like, if anybody's got the courage to show up and be that vulnerable, then I'm going to show up and do my part. And I'm going to jump ahead a little. When she asked me, my first thoughts that went through my head are, total imposter syndrome of I'm not qualified. I don't have a degree in that. I've never taken a class for that. Like, I don't think I'm qualified. And it was so great because those were all my buttons and none of her expectations. Like, she wasn't looking
Hmm.
for somebody that had a certificate or had checked the box. She was seeing me as much as I was seeing her. So that was a cool moment.
Very much. I so I want to dig in a little bit, Crystal. Like, why did you feel you needed like a female mentor? Not that Daniel's not a good mentor for installation, right? But what was going on in your life? What were you seeing in you that you felt like, okay, I need someone that's been through the places where I'm going in the future in life, or what was it that you were after?
Um, I was interested in growing mentally. So, I mean, obviously Daniel's a very smart person and he has helped me learn a lot about myself. But for me, a woman has experience in being emotional or being, like she talked about the imposter syndrome, feeling a certain way, even though you're not presenting it on the outside. I just felt very drawn to the fact that I needed someone who knows what it's like to be, um, I don't know. I keep going back to emotional, like being who is emotionally stable, even though she probably felt like she was not, which is fine. Um, but I just needed guidance in that area and kind of getting to know myself and how to know myself and where to start, really.
Hmm.
Kind of those internal demons that I wanted to fight.
What stuck out to you so quickly about her? Like, how did you know that it happened all very quickly, right? But what? And look, I've met Shannon, but I don't know that you can necessarily put it in words. Like, you're special, Shannon. You
I
really are. Like, and not like my daughter's special. you're, there's just you. You love giving hugs and making people like feel appreciated and valued, and you'll talk with anyone, and you're very positive. You're looking for ways to bring people up, but like maybe I answered the question. I don't know. Like what was it where you were just like, nope, done. Okay, check. Here we go. Like what did it, Crystal?
um, honestly, the only way I could put it into words is that it was all a part of the plan. And what does Shannon say? The synchronicities, divine synchronicity. Either way, it was meant to happen the way it happened. And yeah, just,
Yeah, it was a divine
that's,
appointment. Like, I think
Hmm.
not to sound weird, but like we were both almost outside our bodies and the universe took over and was like, this is going to happen. This is how it's going to happen. And you two are going to like it. And, not that there was no resistance to it,
Hmm.
but,
Hmm.
um,
So where did it start? It was you guys you get to hang out a little bit at surfaces, but you leave. And so where does this relationship start? How does it form? What did you even do to start looking to be like, well, let's work on this or that, or I don't know. How did this develop?
so it started with this hug that lasted, I think, about, I don't know, a half hour, 20 seconds. I'm not sure. Um, and then when we got back, I think we just started on Zoom. And like I remember getting back to my desk with that whole thing I just said about I don't know what I'm doing. So I start Googling like how to be a mentor. I'm looking for apps or checklists or whatever. And I thought, this is all terrible and I don't want to do any of this. And I thought, okay, well, maybe we just do what I always say, which is just wing it, be in the moment, be present, show up, and try to listen more than you talk. But then I realized I think we did Zoom for the longest time. I think until probably until my surgery, where I couldn't do Zoom. Then we switched to the phone, which ended up being great because then we ended up on the porch. Um, but it just I think it started out. I did a lot of talking because I thought I had to like prove myself and I had to like show her that I was worthy. And then I remember there being a shift where I was like, yeah, I think the best thing that I can do for her is what I do, how you described me. Thank you so much, Kyle, for that kind description. Is I like to ask people questions to help them get to know themselves and, come to the answer on their own. So I switched to trying to listen more and ask more questions. And it
Hmm.
was beautiful to watch her just be able to unfold and unpack things so quickly. Like her eagerness to grow and to learn became so apparent so fast because she took every piece of information, and I could tell when she was onto something because she'd start writing in her notebook, and it just grew from there. That's my side.
Okay. I mean, where did it start for you, Crystal? Like, what was the beginning of this? What did you have a idea of what you wanted to get out of it? Was it not what you expected? Was it everything you expected in a way that you didn't know?
Listen, I had just realized the day before I asked Shannon to be my mentor that Daniel was my mentor for the last 10 years. So expectations weren't even a factor. It was just an intuition, a gut feeling that I had that I needed her to be in a part of my life. And definitely 10 out of 10 recommend, exceeds any type of non-existent expectation. It has helped me in ways that I can't even explain sometimes.
How how consistent are you both? How often do you meet? Is it once a month, every week, multiple times a week as needed, and it just when we call we make time?
We started out once a week, I think, and then kind of dwindled down to every 2 weeks, and then we were probably once a month. And now I just bother her all the time. I'm sending her videos constantly of the shit that I'm researching.
Okay.
I'm gonna make you back up on that B word you just said. Could you kindly rephrase bother?
Making myself known.
Thank you.
Okay. See, look at this. We're doing it now. We're doing it in an episode. We're mentoring. I
Yeah,
love it. We can't
yeah,
have
we're not
that
turning
head trash around
it.
here. Um
Exactly.
okay. So it started off and now it was a little bit it's whenever. I want to give you both a ton of credit, to be honest. It's there's no buy-in from either one of you other than you care about each other. And it's really hard to keep a relationship like that going in situations like this where there's no buy-in from someone monetarily. There's no pain, right? And so I think it's really impressive that you both have kept this alive just based on the fact of like we know we need to do this, and I think it is a special thing, and it's hard to do. I've talked about on the show before, but you can't have this mentor mentee relationship if someone's mentoring you and then the mentee shows up and gets a bunch of info and goes back and does nothing. You're not going to continue to pour into somebody that doesn't do the work to improve because you're wasting your time and your time is valuable. So I for both of you to stay committed when there's nothing on the line other than we care about each other, it's really, really impressive.
That's one of the things I've learned from Crystal is it taught me a lot about balance because I come from a family that like my dad worked all the time and he would tell you like if you're awake you should be working and if you're asleep you should figure out how to get your subconscious to work for you while you're sleeping. So I grew up with the whole wrong balance, and I hear like in my head my friend Sean Monet always tells me he's always ABB, always be billing. And I'm a new business, so like I always got to be billing. And
Mm-hmm.
then I would look at my calendar and it really helped me shift and get balance when I was like, I don't care if I need to make more money. I'm making time for this. This is important to me as a person. It's important to me for the business because it's getting me outside the business and making me do other things than just work all the time. And it helped. implement, I always do these little things that I have to have little symbols to remind me of stuff. And Crystal actually just was at my house this past weekend. And one of the things that we implemented came from this, which is I now have a pack of ribbons that I keep in my purse. And I have first place tied to my purse because I'm in first place. And then my paralyzed dog is in second place. So there's a second place ribbon on his kennel over here. And I have a third place ribbon on my computer, if you can hear, to remind me that I can't put work first. And it just, Crystal really helped me find that balance.
Poor Kevin doesn't even get a ribbon.
Oh, Kevin and I are tied first. We put each other. Yeah, the whole idea is that, and especially because of the paralyzed dog, like we found ourselves putting him first. And I was like, no, 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 we have to put ourselves first, then the dog, then work. And sometimes those can shift. But like I said, I had to have a visual. So I had these little ribbons running around to remind me.
I like it. I absolutely love that. It's very hard. I think a lot of business owners get lost in having they put so many other things first that aren't important, and yet at other times they don't put the correct thing first, and sometimes the business needs to come first in the equation so you make the correct decision. And it's not that you own your company, but you're an employee of your company, and you have to understand the difference.
Yeah.
So the you have to make decisions that are company based in the best interest of the company, not you. And I think a lot of business owners struggle with that. And so it's like sometimes the first place ribbon has to go to the company to make the decision, and other times it can go to you. But
But I also
that's an
think
interesting dynamic of trying to fit, like things shift, right? Like the dog could get first place for like a second, but it's because it doesn't work. Like if you're not taking care of you, you can't take care of the dog, right? And if the business is the thing that provides for you, you have to take care of the business. But I have to take care of me in order to do the business. Like there's it has to switch in a dynamic way between like owner and business and your personal life. But we have to be aware of what we're doing, why and when.
But I literally watched the shift of when I would spend time with Crystal, then work was easier and things fell into place and ideas came faster. So the time investment I put in her and into myself, I watched it pay off in the business. So I got to actually, proof in the pudding of the putting your airplane mask on first.
Well, so that's an interesting concept too, is you were able to, I think a lot of times we get lost in, I have to get this done, I got to get that done. And we get so tied up and drained that we have nothing left. And it's creatively, I get it. I've been there, I've done that. And on Crystal's side of things, you can go work 10 hours on the floor, 12 hours on the floor, 14 hours on the floor. I got to get it done. We're behind. We got to, how good are you at hour 13 compared to hour 6? Right.
Yeah.
And how good are you going to be tomorrow after only getting 4 hours of sleep, and you go back and you try and put in another 12-hour day?
You got to fill your cup first.
You got to spend the time to take care of you, and then you're able to work more productively and get more accomplished. And so, I mean, you're saying she helped you realize some of this. What was that? Like, what was going on to where you were able to take time out to be with her, but then you were able to come back to Reach and be more productive?
Well, the super simple thing was I realized that I'm in control of my time and the business. Like it's all me. So if it's not working out, it's because of me. So I chose to try this experiment to see what it was like putting myself first and doing the things that brought me joy. And thankfully, I got to see the return happen so quickly that I was like, okay, check the box. I learned that lesson. Now I know. I'm going to share it with Crystal and see what's happening. And what's cool is every time that we talk, we're different ages. We're from different parts of the country. We do different things. Our brains work completely differently. But every time we get on a call and we're honest and vulnerable with each other, we're going through the same shit. Different example. It is unbelievable. And it really helps you see like everybody's going through the same stuff, and everybody, doubts themselves or is having a bad hair day and doesn't know how to handle it, or wants tools to know how to better handle things, or just, the basic urge to get to know yourself.
What about for you, Crystal? How has this helped you realize things that were maybe unexpected that were going, you didn't think you'd ever get out of this?
My mind goes straight to I've learned how to be more accepting of other people. We're all reflections of each other. And oftentimes, like Shannon said, the things that you're going through, someone else is also going through. And I think the more compassion we have, the more love that we can give to those around us, the more it kind of comes back tenfold. And everybody's happier when you're feeling loved, opposed to feeling stressed about, work, or I didn't get this done or that. So just really breaking every moment down into, I see this is happening and this is how I'm going to react. So, because I'm not a business owner, so it is a little bit different for me, but I do commit a lot of my time to preferred flooring.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the floor. I'm also, like today, I work at 7 p.m. today, but I went and spent a couple hours in the office this morning because I wanted to do some work on the computer as well. So I think that's another thing I've learned. Shannon used to tell me, or she still does tell me this. If you feel like you should do something, then you probably shouldn't do it. But if you want to do something, then you're doing it out of the goodness and kindness of your heart. And that's where, the compassion is. That's where you change people's lives because you're doing something out of the goodness of your heart. And I think that's been a lot of my takeaway, just looking at life through a different lens.
And I think we're both working on the self-compassion because we've both learned and have the tools to give it to other people,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not instinctive to both of us yet to be self-compassionate first.
Interesting. It's really, I've realized the same thing through doing the business therapy mastermind groups that there's two of them, and there's a business that's over 20 years old and there's a business that's a couple years old, and they're both struggling with the exact same things at this point with employees and business structure and all of that. And you would think that the 20-year-old company would be way past that. But just in getting these conversations amongst the different group members, you're right. A lot of things come up and you're just like, I'm doing that. Oh, I'm doing that. And when you have the ability to talk to someone else about it, it changes how you're able to process the information. I've learned that just we internalize so much stuff as human beings. We have conversations with ourselves, but we don't externalize it a lot. And we definitely, if we do externalize it, we're telling people that don't necessarily understand. Your spouse doesn't always get it. Your coworkers don't get it. Your kids don't get it. Your friends don't get it. Like, you need to find that group of people that understands you for you, and then you externalize it, and you're able to not only process it differently for yourself because you've externalized the information, whether you write it down, you say it, however, but then you're able to get, and you probably solve it on your own just by doing that. But if not, you get feedback from your peers that have been there, done that, going through it, and then you're like, oh, I'm not crazy. Like, this is okay. And it's go ahead.
I think that a lot of it has to do with self-awareness. The more self-aware you are, the more you can help other people become self-aware as well. When you, like you said, they talk about what they're going through, and you're like, oh yeah, that's kind of the beginning to being self-aware. And then that's how you start making those little changes that you see in other people. But because we're reflections of each other, you start to change that in yourself as well.
Well, and I think just getting it, again, just, you have to get it out. Keeping it in isn't doing anything for anyone, including it. It's really just damaging you by keeping it all in and trying to process it internally. You're never going to get anywhere with it. You have to get it out and away from you. Write it down. Like, that was great advice from Shannon, to write your fears down on the piece of paper and throw them away, right? Because at that point now you had externalized them into a physical form, and then you took the act of throwing them away. And even though it seems childish, mentally, I know that puts you in such a better place to where you're like, nope, I'm good. Like, I don't have to worry about these things anymore because I left them in the trash can. I got to assume that's how it went down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think these relationships, and why I wanted to do this episode, is it's so key to just be able to come together and talk and try and grow with someone. But then we'll get into it in a minute here. I'm going to have to stop for a second, but it's about the conversations you're having. Not only are you trying to process something and help by having to teach someone or mentor someone or lecture them or whatever, like, you have to you start processing the information in a different way, and you're like, is that really how it should be done? Am I doing it right? And where do I go with this? Like, am I giving them the best information? And you start really digging into what you're doing. And so I want to kind of look at how that's been going. But first, we got a real quick word from GoBoard. If you're looking for the perfect waterproofing solution for tile installation, look no further than Johns Manville GoBoard. It's time to say goodbye to worries of moisture damage and hello to durable, easy to install tile backer. GoBoard is engineered to withstand tough environments, providing excellent waterproofing protection. Whether it's your bathroom, kitchen, or any other wet area, GoBoard has got you covered. Don't compromise on quality. Choose JM GoBoard for the ultimate waterproofing peace of mind. Visit their retailers and ask for GoBoard. You can visit www.jm.com/GoBoard for more information. All right.
Your voice makes me want to buy GoBoard.
You should.
You're like, I want some. I want to be.
Hey, GoBoard's great, man. It's reasonably priced. They even got new, like, I forget the size exactly. This is how good I am, right? I don't have the sheet of paper from last quarter. What'd they release? They released 32 by 60 sheets, I want to say. So they're made perfectly to go do a 3x5 tub surround in tile, because you have less cutting and they just kind of fit in place where they need to be. So they got options for you, right? And they got different thicknesses and whatnot, and it's super easy. They're open to allowing you to use other sealants. You don't just have to use GoBoard sealant. You can use other stuff. Got all kinds of options. They're very, very generous with their system that they got going on. No, Jose, we don't work. We do not. But thanks for tuning in on LinkedIn. Let's see. So, Shannon, how has it worked for you? Like I was saying, right? You have to externalize these things, and what has that done to challenge? I guess you're being your inner self. Have you found that to be a struggle as you've worked with Crystal?
Yeah, so it's all fun and games to be sitting on one side to make her look at her own stuff. But by doing that, then I have to look at my own stuff, because once she learns something, she throws it right back at me. So she takes a nugget this big and then she runs with it and masters it. So it's been very interesting to watch the shift of, I'm just going to ask her a bunch of questions, to watching how she tells the whole story and then watching her reaction to herself when she tells the whole story. And we're a year. Is that where we are? A year or so?
Year and
a half.
Year and a half. And now she does it on her own. So she'll tell the story, do the work, start working it out, ask herself the question. So one of the things that we do is, when we're really trying to unpack something big, and we don't mess around with like, how many pencils should I have in my pencil cup? It's big stuff. So we'll ask why 5 times to try to get to the root of it. Mm-hmm. And she'll start on her own with, I know, I'm going to ask myself why. And then I'm already at the second why, man. And then she does the work and gets into the third why. And then we're crying on the fourth why. And then there's this hallelujah epiphany on the fifth why. And then we're like, okay, now we know, we understand it. We can set it down. I like to say a backpack, like imagine this backpack full of rocks. It's weighing you down. Okay. And set that backpack down and move on. And then she blossoms with the thing that she set down, like letting it go, then the thing that she learned, and then she like rocket launches that into the next thing. So, um, yeah, she shook my world and my process up.
Has that been challenging for you to have to go through that? Like, knowing you and your husband, you guys are, you've lived a comfy lifestyle, and you got, the house and a dog and how, suburbia and vacations, and like, it's easy going. So like, has she challenged, it sounds like you're getting challenged to your identity by helping her figure out her identity. And like, has that been difficult for you to be like, am I the person that I really thought I was?
I think the last 6 months, if you know me personally, you know I've gone through as much stuff as I think one person should be handed in 6 months. Everything from, potentially getting diagnosed with cancer myself to having find out that it's not, to getting surgery. My mother got diagnosed with stage 4 lung and liver cancer. My dog was paralyzed. Another dog died. Our kitchen flooded. We had a cousin we lost to suicide. I think they're like 9 things. So that's the only reason that we ended up doing some of our things once a month, is just because I couldn't function and I couldn't show up. But doing Crystal's work, she made me do my work through all of those things through that 6 months. So it was gut wrenching and emotional. And, if we're not crying, we didn't do it right.
Mm-hmm.
Like if somebody doesn't cry on one of our calls, we're not doing it right. So I think, did I answer your question?
I mean, I think so. Like, let me add, so Crystal, do you feel the roles reversed the last 6 months as all this happened?
I feel like from the beginning, I've always tried to, like she said, kind of turn her own stuff on her because I feel like I do learn pretty quick. And I, I just, I just keep showing up. I understand that she's going through a lot and I would check on her to make sure she's good, but also give her space because it's tough when you're going through everything at once. And I know that from her perspective, she felt like I was counting on her. She didn't want to let me down. So just kind of reassuring her that I'm still going to be here. Just handle your business and we'll get through it.
Mm-hmm.
That was a lot tougher than it sounds. It was really hard for me to not, like, I learned that whole lesson of by showing up and spending time with her, then I get my cup filled too, and all of that. So I tried to hang on to that while I was going through all of this stuff. And then there were days where I was like, I can't. And then she was like, yeah, but you tell me like you have to put your needs first sometimes. And how insulting, like she's not going anywhere and she's not going we have a stronger relationship with that. She's not going to break up with me or be mad at me
Mm-hmm.
because I took care of myself. So yeah, she makes me look at my own stuff.
Okay. And so, I mean, at this point, do you feel that there's still like a mentor mentee relationship, or is it just like, hey, we're gal pals now, and we challenge each other to be better human beings? Like, do you feel, Crystal, that you're still in this position to learn and grow, and she has a lot to show you, or do you feel that like you're, I don't know that it's equals, right? But like, is it more of a level playing field, I guess?
No, I definitely feel like I still have a lot to learn from her. So I guess I would say it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
And I will say that Crystal is now mentoring someone through the Wi-Fi group, which was a really cool accomplishment, I think.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Hey, you guys are, you look, you were doing mentoring before Wi-Fi even created their mentoring program. So, we'll just, we'll let that be. You guys were trailblazers. They're copying you.
I mean, I just think the fact that she's now mentoring someone else and has the confidence and the courage to show up and help somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
and not to tell her story, but I think the other person was a little bit, the person she's mentoring was a little bit intimidating from a job title perspective.
Oh.
And it was cool to unpack that and watch her fly on that one too.
I think everyone needs somebody to go pour into, right? You need to go fill, so as much as you need your cup filled, like you need to go pour into somebody else's cup. Even though like kids drive me nuts, I love them to death, especially ones that aren't mine and I can give back. Those are the best ones. But like doing Cub Scouts was like an absolute blast because there was these kids and I got to teach them how to like start fires. Like that's cool, right? Like you're the cool dad always teaching us how to start fires and use a knife and go camping and build things. And like I think you have to find a way to go try and make somebody else be better than how you found them. And if your company's not set up that way, you definitely have problems like internally. I know like in your case, Shannon, you and Carrie have worked together in the past. You've known each other forever, but I have a feeling that part of Reach's culture is that you guys are working towards like, okay, this place needs to be enjoyable to be here and do what we need to do. But I need to make sure that we're both growing as people. And Crystal, you've already said that Daniel has mentored you for years and years, and Jose as well on the installation side. But I know that you have such a strong culture there that employees are not made to feel that they're just there to produce a product. They care about you. They want to invest in you. They want to help you have a better life, a better family, and whatnot. So how do you both feel in that aspect? Like, what are you looking to do and where do you want to go with being able to pour back in people and through your companies? Go ahead, Crystal.
You're way better at talking first. Dang it, you would say me.
No. Yeah, I would say you first.
I wanted to put you on the spot though and see how you answered first. But I know what she's going to do. She's going to ask the question again because I'm going to dilly dally so long we're going to forget what you asked. Both of us are.
Very true.
All right, can you ask it the short version again?
What is it about? What are you doing to make sure that you're able to go pour into other people? Like, what about this relationship has, I got to believe, like, you're inspired to go make sure you're bettering other people all the time at this point?
So I guess for me, once I realized that Daniel and Jose were my mentors, they've taught me a lot about installation, and then meeting Shannon and really kind of unpacking my own insecurities and my own doubts about myself really helped me to see that I am in that position for someone else, even if I don't realize it. And so realizing that teaching someone else or mentoring someone else was going to help me grow just as much it is as me being a mentee, I started being a lot, I guess a good word is a lot more, compassionate at work for other people, and really taking the time to explain things, and not just about installation, like about life things. One of the biggest things for me lately has been being more positive, and I feel negative energy very deeply, and so I try to stay away from it. And so when people are around me being negative, I just try to lighten the mood, and I think that says a lot about a culture and a workplace too, because the more negative people you have working for you, the more you're going to have people leaving it, and it's just not sustainable long term. So just kind of putting out the positive vibes and knowing that as a company, we have something that people admire and that we can teach and mentor. And I have really enjoyed that aspect of being at my company.
What about on the front of being a mother? How has it changed your relationship with how you look at your kids?
I still want to throat punch them sometimes, but like right now, I'm downstairs in our lower living room where they never are. But 5 minutes ago, all three of my kids and both of our dogs were down here. Like, for what purpose? Because mom is down here. All right.
I, yeah, I mean that's kids
But,
being kids.
right. um,
I mean, but do you tackle like explaining lessons to them differently now? Are you looking to find
Absolutely.
like little moments to say, "Oh, hold on, like this is a great teaching moment now. Like let me grab you." Like is the whole approach to it different from a year and a half ago?
Absolutely. Actually, those are my exact words to Charlie, my husband. This is a teaching moment. So let's kind of break it down and explain things. And actually, I just had a very adult conversation with my 4-year-old son last week because he was throwing a fit at daycare because he's 4. He's going through his own transitions himself, and he went to a different daycare for school for before and after. So then once he went back to his summer daycare, he kind of was testing his boundaries again, and it was to the point where they were like, we really have to look at what's going on with him because we're not going to allow some of his behavior. So I really sat down with him. Well, actually, we were in the garden because that's his happy place, and we talked about consequences and what happens when. Basically, we talked about what a consequence is, and if you're not doing the things, if you're not behaving in a manner that is respectful to other people, then there will be consequences. And I gave him, a consequence, which I know is also his happy place, which is buying gifts, me buying gifts for him. So he was unable to buy gifts for himself until I had a good report for an entire week. So it's it's definitely different for me being a mom. I try to break things down.
Mm-hmm.
Why is my kid doing this? And I try to look more in depth to their feelings because I'm an empath. I've accepted that, and it's good to acknowledge your feelings. And the more I help them kind of acknowledge those feelings, then the better off they'll be later on too. That was a very
Y'all
long
know your
answer.
employees are like 4-year-olds, right? Like Crystal just broke
Yes.
down how you need to handle your installation crews. And I'm not even kidding, right? There needs to be clear boundaries and expectations set. They need to know the consequences. This is amazing advice. Go write out a job description and like employee expectation agreement for a employee handbook based on what she said. Go rewind like that 3 minutes and go listen to it again, folks. That's beautiful. I love it. That's the relatability here. All right, Shannon, for you, what's it done to make you look at maybe where else you can add this? What's it done for your relationship with Kevin? Relationship. I mean, you're around Carrie all the time. So how has this forced you to just evolve as a person?
So I think something we have both learned through this is when we start working on something, then, everybody's your mirror and you're always projecting your stuff trying to, until your brain can resolve it. So when we work on compassion, then I'm more compassionate and more tolerant and more patient. So if Kevin comes at me and, snaps at me or whatever, I've learned through this process to stop taking it so personally. And then I've learned to ask the 5 whys, and I get to the second why, and I'm like, I don't even need to ask any more questions. The point is, I need to be more compassionate and considerate about what he may be going through instead of how I'm
Mm-hmm.
receiving it. So, like, and then I'm at the grocery store and the person bumps me with a cart, and I'm more compassionate because of what they might be going through. So, whatever lesson it is that we're learning, I'm like a laser focused target. It applies to everything and everybody. So I think that part is cool. And also working with Carrie, she's the queen of culture for crying out loud. So she's always, we're very in sync on having work life balance and a culture and a work environment where, we are filled up and we are seen as humans and this isn't just a job. And so I feel like I'm getting it at every angle, but that's something that is in my DNA
Mm-hmm.
to serve. and to help people be seen and heard. So it's like it's amplifying what was already in my DNA, if that makes sense.
I mean, it's forcing all those qualities to become bigger and better. I love it. Um,
And
Crystal, is Charlie around? Is he out working?
he's home.
Go get him. Go get him.
Ezekiel, where's Dad?
It's really cool to hear her, like whatever we're working on, she'll tell me an example about one of the kids or a conversation she had with Charlie. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, that's good. And then I try to do the same thing with Kevin. And I think our relationships are better with our people, after a year and a half of this.
Oh, I believe it. I know we spoke before it started, so I know that Kevin's not around. I was going to go grab him and I want to get his opinion, but I might have to record that separately. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, he'd love to have this conversation.
I want to get Charlie's opinion of like what's happened over the past year and a half and what changes he's seen real
I think
quick.
he left.
Uh-oh. All right, maybe we don't get to do this, folks. I'm on the fly. I'm working on the fly here.
I
So,
think he went to go get gas for the lawnmower. It
yeah.
does that kind of stuff.
Well, as long as he comes back and he doesn't stay gone. The kids don't need that story. Where'd Dad go? He never came back from getting gas. All right. Well, what else do we have here? What's the big breakthrough? What's the big takeaway, or why does somebody need to do this? Right? Like, give me sell somebody on this. Right? Like, why do they need to go? Why do they need to go become a mentor? Like, make sure they have one.
I think there's always something to learn from someone, and if you think about it, how many people have you learned from that you don't even consider them mentors, but they have taught you for years? And I guess in a sense, we have more mentors than we think we do. But when I like specifically when I pick my mentors or they pick me, um, just the things that you can break down together, the growth that you have internally, when you sit down with them to target the things that you are actively trying to work on, and it's someone that can work on it with you. Like Shannon said, she kind of let me talk myself through everything, and I would be like, "Holy shit, that sucks." But from a mentor perspective, because I'm a mentor now, which is weird to say, um, it's actually really cool to take on that method, and I found myself doing it without even realizing I was doing it. I was telling the ladies last weekend that Shannon's training me to be her little mentor, but it's just the connection you have with someone to grow internally or in whatever aspect of your life that you are trying to grow.
And it all boils down to it's like free therapy. So if you're afraid of therapy or you don't want to pay for therapy, it's a great baby step to get into it. But if anybody has the acknowledgement in their gut or in their soul that they want to improve or they want to grow, then the first step is having the courage to admit that, say that, and then start looking for people that you want to connect with to have that relationship and do right by yourself. Like commit to yourself by saying, I want growth. I want some of the things I heard Crystal say today. And then you'll just naturally start looking for people. And then you'll go, oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I just would recommend to everybody, please have the courage to at least ask, because Sean Monet is another, I talk about him all the time because he is a mentor to me. I run everything by him. And Kevin's not even mad anymore because you can't hear it when your spouse says it. You have to, somebody at the grocery store could say the same thing that Kevin said, the best advice ever, and I can't hear it from him. I can hear it from the grocery store. He'll let me hear it. He understands now hearing it from Sean is okay. But I was terrified to ask him because I thought, what if he shuts me down? What if he's like, you're not smart enough? No, which how insulting to him. He would never say that. But I made up all these stories in my head about, oh, he's definitely too busy. He's running this great company. And he is so happy to give me advice all the time. And I just check in and I'm like, is it too much? Am I too much? Am I asking too much? but he was flattered, I think, that I asked him.
Hmm.
So I just encourage everybody, if you have the urge, just ask somebody and don't be afraid of them saying no. And if they do say no, just know it's not the right situation and go ask somebody else, but keep asking until you find a relationship that works for you. And the other thing I'll say is, if this hadn't worked out and we hadn't had such a strong connection and I wasn't doing what I thought she needed, I would
Hmm.
have said, can I help you find somebody else? And another important thing is, somewhere along the way, I think it was in the beginning, Crystal, you were worried about hurting Daniel's feelings because he had been your mentor. And I just, like I told her, you can have more than one.
Hmm.
And there are things that Daniel can teach her that I can't possibly teach her. And there are things that, because I'm a woman, that I can teach her that he can't, just because of our genders.
Hmm.
So that would be
I think that's
some of
great
the.
advice. You've mentioned Sean a couple of times. Go back like 10 episodes. I don't know, no more than 20. I don't think. We just had Sean on. Sean, I'm a psychologist. You're a psychologist, is what it's called. Go back like 10 episodes or so and look for Sean's episode. It's great.
We'll see
Very
what I
smart
think.
man. Running an awesome company over there. Like, you can go back. There's an episode with Carrie. That's a lot more episodes away, but she talks about building a culture. She's really good at it. She's very bright. Go find that episode. I guess that's where I want to kind of take this, right? Is you got to build a network of people. And so I want to know, has your network of people changed since the two of you started communicating more? They say you're the sum of the five people you hang out with most. And that's, I've, like you just said, you kind of have to find the people to be around for where you want to go, and that's where that's where this show came from. Is I was like, I don't want to be a struggling contractor. I don't want to be bottom of the barrel and whatnot. And I started looking at guys, and okay, they're doing this, and let me talk to them, and okay, there's people above them, and like, let me keep moving myself up this chain to put myself in the room with the people I want to be. And I think a lot of times people get intimidated. They're like, well, I'm not one of them. I can't be there. Man, just ask. Just show up. Like,
Yeah, you'd be
go be
surprised.
the stupid. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. That's for darn sure. And if
Amen.
you ask someone to be your mentor and they say no, it's probably not a good fit. Honestly, most people are going to be absolutely flattered and be in Shannon's position and have no idea what to do or say. And I think that makes them better for it. It's that humbleness that means they're probably a good fit. So,
If I had
uh,
followed some process or some checklist, I'd have ruined the whole thing.
I believe it. I would agree with that. How has Shannon, coming from the design and sales side and then doing social media, how has being actively involved with an installer like changed? Has it changed your circle of people that you interact with now, or how you have a view of this industry because you're seeing a different side of it?
Well, a couple things. I'm now Part Gonzalez, period. They've adopted me and taken me on, which is great. I've learned that I can't, there are so many words I don't even know how to say properly, but I'm trying, which I won't do on this podcast. But to back up to my career, I've been around installers my whole life. I was a hands-on designer. I wasn't a pick a color and send it out the door. I measured my
Mm-hmm.
own jobs. I worked with the installers every day. Those are my people. Installers are, to me, some of the most grounded, generous, giving, loving, caring humans, and they're artists. So it's two of my favorite types of people. Um, so I'll also say that it has changed my circle because it's made me realize who I want to spend my time with and what content I want to consume. So I saw this thing on TikTok that said, if in the morning, if you wake up, do you let 100 people in your bedroom? And you're like, no, of course I don't. And they say, well, yes, you do. Every time you open social, first thing when you open your eyes, you're letting 100 people into your brain and into your bedroom before you even go out and face the world. And between that and a couple of conversations Crystal and I've had, and something Carrie taught me, which was at the beginning of the year, Carrie makes all of her health appointments so that that's important. Like, she's number one, those get taken care of. So it's not November and she hasn't gone to the dentist and hadn't gone to the eye doctor. The other thing that she and her husband do is they sit down and they say, who do we want to spend our time with this year? And they make a list. So we made a list of who we wanted to spend time with. Crystal is on my list. And I guarantee you that's the only way that Crystal ended up at my house last weekend was because we made a priority that we're in each other's top five VIPs. And I wanted to see her because
Mhm.
otherwise I would have said yes to everybody else that came at me for what they wanted. So by making that list of what I wanted first, it's making sure that I get to spend time with her. And then back to that content thing, I'm trying to be very mindful of what content I let in my brain. And that's everything from I've watched every episode of Law and Order SVU, all 23 years of it, probably three times. I'm trying now not to watch TV and I'm trying to go. I watch the things that Jose and Crystal send me. We're watching all these spirituality YouTube things and listening to podcasts and listening to more of your podcasts. So it's really shifted and made me more present with who I spend my time with and what I let into my brain. That was a long winded answer, but
No,
That
that's
was the
it's
perfect
beautiful.
answer, and I got nothing to follow it up.
Okay. Has it changed who? But has it's changed who you hang out with, Crystal? Has it like
Yes.
I will
Um,
say that the like okay, let's just say that the installation crowd cannot. They're not always the best people to hang around with. There's a lot of salty installers that are content being miserable and just an installer, and preferred flooring isn't that kind of a business. That's not where they're headed. That's not the kind of crew that they want. Um, so has it I have to assume that it's changed the way that you look and the people you hang out with and where like the trajectory of what you want to accomplish in life.
um, so yeah, I've been fortunate at Preferred Flooring that we've always had really well-rounded people working there. Maybe not so much in the beginning, but once they started to learn and grow and realizing that, that the image is pretty important. The people you have working for you is very important. And to be like-minded. Um, Honestly, I didn't hang out with very many people in the first place. My friends are my family. So Daniel, Jose, Erica, Tracy, Tanya, we all get
Mm-hmm.
together still. They are still my people. Um, I guess the only thing that's changed is my social friends. So if someone posts something that I'm like, this person is annoying, so I just unfollow them because I am very adamant on not having negative energy take up space in my life. And so I I try to not I try to keep to myself as much as I can. And I've been in more mentoring groups with Wi-Fi and being a part of any women's group that we have like events coming up, like CFI, FCICA convention,
Mm-hmm.
just planning things, helping plan things there and spending time with Shannon
I got a
and
question
my
for you,
kids.
Crystal. Would you say that you would have hung out with Carrie Davis and Melanie Towie and Rachel Berlin and our whole Clucky Chicken Club? We had this thing with this rubber chicken.
Would I,
Before we met, would you gravitate towards them? Like, would those be your people?
yes, I have always been a person hungry for growth. I guess I could say spiritually or mentally. I have always been told that I was an old soul or I gravitated towards more mature people. That's just always been my thing. I don't like craziness.
You ladies are hard to miss, and you're very welcoming. So I don't know that that's a good question. I'm sorry, Shannon. It's look, you let me hang out with you, and that's saying something, right? So we're really like hanging down in the gutter when Kyle comes around, and all the ladies are always welcoming. I
Okay,
know.
you know I'm about
Don't
to do
say
it to you,
that.
Kyle.
Don't
You know,
say that about
you know
yourself,
I'm about
Kyle.
to.
You're not allowed to.
Could you please rephrase that?
I know. I look. I love hanging out with you. I appreciate that I'm appreciated by all of you. And it's amazing to be able to come and crash the girl parties and not be thrown out. I'll tell you what, guys, they're a lot better looking than you at the trade shows too. So I'm making the wise decisions here. Let me tell you.
Not hard.
Any last minute takeaways? Anything we didn't hit on that we maybe should have hit on, or a nugget that we didn't get to?
I would just really encourage everybody to, if there was anything that resonated with you during this conversation, to please take the risk and ask somebody. Because I can't tell you how rewarding it's been and took me by surprise. And just, I can't recommend it enough. And I can't thank Crystal enough. And I can't thank you enough, Kyle, for you're doing to us what we do to each other. Getting to tell the whole story out loud, for other people is meeting all of those points of getting to serve other people, take a look at our own stuff, but telling that whole story all at one time makes you really appreciate the whole journey. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be able to put it on and let you. I'm happy to let you show off what you've accomplished, because it's again, it's absolutely amazing that this thing happened and it developed, and I want more people in this space to have it. I don't know that there's enough business owners that go and seek out relationships like this. And you don't have to be a business owner. Crystal's an employee, and not that that's to be taken lightly. She's a very key part of what happens at Preferred Flooring. But it doesn't matter who you are, whether it's a kid or an employee or you're an owner. Go find someone that can help you grow as a person, and then go try and help someone else grow, and you'll be growing on both ends, and it'll be an amazing journey. I think that's what really matters, is don't get stuck and say, oh, I've been doing it this way for 40 years and I don't need to learn anything new, because that's not the truth.
I hope that some business owners listen to this and get inspired to go mentor someone, because so many people have forgotten more than most people will ever know in a certain category. And if they can hear this conversation and then see somebody that's struggling, or that they can take what I call their superpower and pass it down to someone else, to me, like, that's the difference between what would it be for work? Like when you say the difference between a house and a home, like between a business and,
well, it's owning it's between owning a asset and owning a job.
Yeah. Oh, like you say all the time.
But
I think would be so rewarding for business owners to watch someone grow and blossom. And then, people don't leave jobs. They're not going to leave someone that took the time to invest in them and help them grow. They're going to stay and be more loyal. Not that that's why you're doing it, but I think it would be rewarding for both sides.
Well, look, some people are going to leave, and you weren't ever going to keep that person anyways. But a lot of contractors, I believe, are scared to pour into people because everyone always leaves. Maybe you're hiring the wrong people. Learn how to hire. And that's a whole different conversation. But if you truly poured into someone and created them to be the best they could be, what are you afraid of when they go and work in the marketplace? They're going to compete at the same level as you and bring the same things to the table if you taught them correctly. That's a good thing, because the bar was raised. If you don't teach them everything and they leave, that's why you're all mad. Y'all undertrained people for the last 20 years, 30, 40 years, and they all suck. And now the bar's so low, and it keeps getting lowered even further, and you're frustrated by it because you didn't want to train them because you were scared they were going to leave. And
well, ideally, that would be the biggest reward, that they did so well, like that they could go start their own business
and be good at it and successful. Not, look, some of the people go out and they want to try it and they come back. I've had tons of conversations where people are like, no, my best employees have left. They tried it on their own for a couple of years. They got frustrated and they realized it's not for them, and they came back, and we hired them right back. And here we are. And other people are meant to go out on their own and do it, but go help them be successful instead of trying to hold them back and being worried about the competition. There was a great quote that just came out of the the boot camp that Broadloom and Jason Goldberg did, and it was that competition doesn't only happens at the bottom. The top end is collaborating, and that's paraphrased, and it probably was paraphrased when it got posted online, but that's the truth. You guys are competing at the top of your markets, and you're collaborating with each other. You're not worried and hiding information from each other. You're building each other up so you can both be more successful. That's what needs to happen. All right.
I do have one more thing, though.
Okay.
Take me, sorry, man. But I'm a perfect example of being so terrified of asking questions or asking someone for their time and it working out beautifully. Like, even talking today with you guys, just realizing that the reason people look at me for inspiration is because I don't fit a standard, a certain image of someone. I'm living outside of even my box, and that's one of my purposes, to show people that even when you're uncomfortable, even when things are hard, if you can make yourself do those hard things, life could be beautiful.
Got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's where the growth is.
That's it. Okay, that's going to do it for us, folks. Let's, what do we got to do? We got to plug some stuff. We got to hear a short word from Tice. So what do we got? Subscribe to the podcast on whatever service you do. Go over to YouTube, subscribe there. We got to grow that platform. I need 1,000 subscribers, and then I can and 4,000 watch hours, and then we can get monetized over there, and maybe I make $2 a month, and that would be way better than no dollars a month. So go subscribe over there. It's 168 or something. Okay. So we got a long ways to go, but help me out. Tell a friend, make them go subscribe. Visit flooracademypod.com. You can get free files in the file section that'll help you better run your business, figure out your day rate, job costing, lead tracker. We've got I got other podcasts that I recommend over there. I got books that I recommend. You can help support the show at patreon.com/Floor Academy. Even $5 a month goes a long way in helping the show to continue to happen. That's $60 a year. I'm telling you, if you can't find a way to listen to this show and have your company earn more than $60 a year, we got other problems. Come at me if that's not true. I guarantee you can add at least $60 a year and then pay that back to me because I helped you out, okay? And so did all these other kind people that come on and get interviewed, and we hang out, and it's a great time. But go help support the show. Subscribe, and you're my marketing. I don't have a marketing budget, all right? So if you subscribe to Patreon, I might be able to get a marketing budget. But until then, you're my marketers, and I need you all to go share the post, and when you see it on Facebook, to comment. When you see the reel, leave a comment, because those interactions are going to get it to show up in more people's feeds, because then it shows as important. So I appreciate that you see it and you like it and you appreciate the content, but when you don't do anything with it and you don't interact, nobody else gets to appreciate it. So I need you to spend that extra 3 seconds and leave a comment or click the thumbs up button or whatever it is that you want to do on the platform you find it on. Check out the store, get a shirt, a hoodie. It's hot right now. It's summer. I don't know. If you want custom Floor Academy sandals, we can get those ordered up. Let me know, and I'll go into the drop shipping company and we can get some Floor Academy logos on some sandals, and we'll have a good time with it. Okay, so what do we got here? Hey, listeners, it's nearing show season again, and I want to remind you that the International Surface event is returning to Las Vegas January 24th through the 26th of 2024. Mark your calendars now, because you're not going if you don't. Shannon just talked about that. You got to put this stuff on your calendar now and commit. You got to make it happen. Floor Academy listeners will have the opportunity to register for free once registration opens in September using promo code Kyle. Don't forget it. It's just my name. It's 4 letters. Okay, so in September, put my name in, and then you get the exhibition pass for free. Whether you're an installer, retailer, distributor, or serve in another capacity within our industry, attending TICE is a solid resource to expand your knowledge and networking base, as proven by this episode. You can also learn about the newest and industry leading products coming to market. Stay up to date with the International Surface Event page on Facebook or at intlsurfaceevent.com. I don't have any reviews to read because ain't no one left me no more reviews. So go on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review. I'm going to print it out. I will read your 5-star review at the end of the show, and I appreciate you doing that because the more reviews I get, the more people find the podcast on Apple, which means the more contractors get helped to run a better business. Thank you to both of you ladies. Very much appreciate your time. Love hanging out with both of you and seeing your continued growth. And I think that'll do it. So we will catch you next week.